Luckily, I know where I'm going. Only have one stop. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to work. Good morning, Reed.
Good morning.
We just had some questions.
I don't have any problem with the way the EMS is run. All right?
Okay.
But we have had concerns. Isn't there any way that we can kind of set up a schedule of when you're going to be there? What hours you're going to be at the office? Because we just have no idea what's going on. Plus, we understand that you're on call a lot, but don't you think we ought to know when you're on call? How many hours you put on call?
Sure, if that's something you want, yeah.
We just, we need some accountability of where you're at and when you're on call, when you're working.
Those are easy to get.
Well, it doesn't seem like it's easy.
Have you asked for it before?
I don't know if we've asked for it, but we've asked for some things like who's on runs. You know, we still haven't received any of that.
Yes, I did that. You guys have received that.
In what form? Did you send it electronically, or?
Do you remember?
No, it's supposed to be coming monthly.
Yeah, that's what we're after. So we can sit down and compare. We get our payroll sheet out. That way we can look and say, oh yeah, these 4 people went on this run on this day. That jives. You see what I'm saying? Is everybody going 10-8 with dispatch like we requested?
They have been for years. We say 719 responding.
Well, we're looking for individuals.
Right, that's my number.
Right. But we're talking about everybody else that comes to the scene. Whether they come POV or
and they all,
ambulance.
once in a while you might have one slip through the cracks, but I would say 98% of the time they're all, because we have to do that to see how many we got responding.
Well, and I agree with that. And all we want is to have a copy of that information, or have that information available to us, so we can make comparisons to our payrolls.
Because I think the last time I ran you a whole year's worth, right?
Yeah, to catch up, but then they wanted it monthly.
Okay, I can get that monthly when you get the payroll stuff. I'll just include that report with it.
That'd be perfect.
What's with all your little chicken tracks on the side? I ain't figured that out yet.
So this one was different because my QuickBooks subscription had expired. So I couldn't, no, not my QuickBooks, my Excel. My Microsoft Excel had expired, so I couldn't throw all these numbers in Excel, so I had to figure them manually. So this one has all my manual calculations.
Oh, I seen last month they had a bunch of them too. I was hoping now you know how to figure it because I couldn't.
Yeah, like when you guys talked about Wendy and having to subtract out her time from the days she was working, that's just a manual process. So Wendy's are always going to be marked up. But the rest of them are marked up this time just because, and you didn't get the Excel printouts that I print out every month because I didn't have Excel at that time. And we waited to buy it through the auxiliary so we could save some money and have it a donation from Microsoft instead of buying it outright.
And then I'm troubles with vacation time and sick leave. It just seems like for some reason you're getting a lot of vacation and sick leave days.
I mean, what's my balance, I guess, would be what I don't, we used to get that in the time clock, but now it's on our time payroll.
Still time clock. It should show your accruals.
It doesn't, mine.
Bring it up here in a second, as soon as I get this to come up.
I suppose you need a new computer.
I do.
like as of right now, you're 24 hours over on personal leave, you're 56 hours over on sick leave, and you're 95 hours over on vacation.
I don't think that's right. What do you have there?
It's just something they give me. I just look at what they give me. That was as of 9/4/18.
Better not be right. If yeah, I can see you'd have an issue with that. I would too. But no, in the time clock system, it used to say, and it would warn you if you're over, like, hey, you're asking for hours you don't have. But that doesn't work anymore.
Like I said before we started, I have no problem with we're running the EMS and how the response times but it's the accountability thing that I'm a little concerned with.
And I mean, to go back to wanting to know when I'm there, when I'm not there, and all that, make me hourly. Then you track all that. If that's what you want to do. I don't know how you work up call. You know, I don't know how you would do that, but that's the answer.
Well, yeah, if we did something like that, it's sure not going to be $4 an hour or $5 an hour to be on call. Or like sometimes I see,
Scott, his numbers on my leave.
Correct. Everybody's correct. And that's in there. I have Shriss bring hers up. There's the girls that you can view.
I thought I got an email from you saying this wasn't correct, but what is on our paychecks is correct. Let me go back.
I would talk to you about it.
Okay. Well, if I have something that's in email form, I will verify that because that's a concern for me too.
There can be some times that they're off. It depends upon when, after a pay period, I update from CIC.
But like it would get caught up in a week or two, right? I mean,
yeah, it's
yeah.
not going to be off very much.
No, I'll go back through my records and we'll figure something out there and get back with you guys. But yeah, the monthly thing, who goes on what calls, that'll be included in payroll. And what you want to do with my position is kind of up to you guys.
Well, we want to do the right thing. It's just hard to get to, what's right, what's wrong, what's going to work, what's not going to work. Because I'm assuming if you went to an hourly wage, there are going to be times where you're going to be eligible for time and a half. We'd like to try to hold those numbers down, but I understand with the position that's going to be really hard to do. So
I'll just be honest. I really feel that this is not an hourly position. Being an EMS director, I think you'd be hard pressed to find that in the region. I don't think it would qualify under the federal employment laws that determine if you're hourly or salary, but that's something you guys can look at. I mean, yeah,
but don't you think it would look better to the public if we know the hours you're going to be at the office?
I'm not looking to look better to the public. I'm looking to provide a service to patients.
Well, we have to look good to the public.
Well, then decide what you want to do. I mean, you can do it, I think, and this is just my opinion, one of two ways.
And they are?
Exempt or non-exempt. If you want to track my every movement, make me non-exempt. That's what that classification, so to speak, is for. But with that comes issues like what Terry brought up, and I don't think, I don't know.
And see, we don't.
I mean, I guess what you're telling me is you're paying me X amount of dollars, and you don't think you're getting X amount of work for that. That's
We didn't say that. I did not say that.
you didn't say that, but that's what you were meaning, right?
We want some accountability. We don't know how many hours you're on call. We just don't know. Because you're not putting in 40 hours up there at the office as far as being an administrator.
And where does 40 hours come with an exempt position, Roger? That's non-exempt. I think it's something that needs addressed kind of in your court as far as the classification of employees and what that really means.
So you're saying that if it means you're on salary, you can kind of come to work whenever you want?
If you guys don't stipulate hours, yes. If you guys stipulate hours, then that's more of a legal question in my head that says, okay, well, we're treating them like an hourly employee, so shouldn't they be an hourly employee? I mean, that's one of the things that in the handbook, the exempt and non-exempt thing really isn't spelled out a whole lot.
I'll call Wage and Hour. I believe I've talked to him about this before, but I'll call him again just to double check. But I think the commissioners can set whatever hours they want.
Right, because Wage and Hour is not going to have a problem with it. It's liability.
It's going to come after us.
It's liability. It's how you guys interpret laws. It's not spelled out.
Well, here's what the exempt employee says. Exempt employee positions that are exempted from overtime provisions of Fair Labor Standard Act. Personnel employed in executive, administrative, professional, computer, and other capacities as defined by the Fair Labor Standards Act are exempt. Exempt positions are not required to be provided overtime compensation or compensatory time for hours worked over 40 hours in a work week. And non-exempt are entitled to overtime payment or compensatory time within the mandates of the Fair Labor Standard Act for hours worked over 40 hours in a work week. Non-exempt employee is one who receives overtime or compensation at a rate of time and a half for any hours worked in excess of 40 hours a week. And that's all the clarification we have there in the handbook. So do we need to revisit both those positions?
In regards to exempt versus non-exempt, there is an expectation of 40 hours. However, when you take it in conjunction with the Fair Labor Standard Act, they have different provisions whereby if you're an exempt employee. And so basically what it boils down to is job performance.
And you said you don't have a problem with how EMS is run. I guess I see where you're coming from in the eyes of the public. I do see that. But if we're so concerned about the eyes of the public, then they need to be watching at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they need to be watching at 4 o'clock in the morning, and all these other times in between. Or maybe we stick up for our employees and say, you know what, they're doing a good job. What more do we ask from them? They're doing a good job. The service is running, I hope people would say, better than probably it ever has. We got the biggest class we've ever had, wanting to be EMTs, which is the biggest problem I see in our service. I mean, I feel like that I really feel like you guys aren't sticking up for your employees, is how I feel to the public. And I say you guys loosely. I mean, I don't. I answer to a board, not individually, but I think that's a problem, but I will do whatever you want me to do. I will, I can ask the region what they're doing, how they're handling some of this stuff. I've got a lot of handbooks from other counties in my office. We can look at that. I just don't, if we need to, if we're just opening a can of worms, that sometimes the best policies aren't defined also.
Well, that's just it. What I think Roger is really asking you for is show some accountability, get us some paperwork that shows us that you work 40 hours a week. That's it. Can you do that?
Do you feel comfortable with that?
I mean, it's in the handbook. Good. I mean, it says 40 hours a week, and you already said you're working 40 hours, so can you just show us on the paper that you are?
Do we count on call? Do we count?
I don't know.
I don't know
See,
either.
that's what
I don't know either.
That's what I have a concern about is the on-call.
Do we count it? Do we not count it?
As far as I'm concerned,
It's not in my job description to do it. It's something that I said I think I need to be doing as a director. Now, it does say in my job description that I'm on call for the state because that's a requirement of an ambulance service. You just have to be available to them or have somebody available to them 24/7. In my time,
position.
in some type of supervisory position. In my time, they've never called. Or they've never called after hours. But it is in there, and it's something we need to do, and we do it and don't think twice about it. When I'm gone, if I don't have cell phone signal, Wendy takes that. And there's no exchange of money or anything. It's just what we do.
I think the more appropriate question is hours worked as EMS director. Not necessarily show that you're working 40, but show hours worked as EMS director so that we can get an idea.
Okay, so would that cover
I
being
guess
a
how-
lab
yeah,
assistant in
how do
the
we
new
separate
class?
that out? I mean,
Isn't that all part of what I'm supposed to be doing?
Well, yeah, if you're doing something like that, document it.
Because
talking about
what
just
we're gonna-
not the on-call time.
The issue I'm gonna have, probably more than you guys, is with this new class, 8 hours a week is going to that class. And that's a nights. That's 6 to 10 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Now, did I come to you and say, by God, it's not in my job description to do this, and I'm not going to do this? No. It's what I think is part of a director, because I see in the future that maybe this is going to relieve some of the pressure that's on me as a director. And I can actually be more of a director than a technician, which, quite honestly, right now, I feel caught between the two. I think a lot of my time goes to be just being a technician and not being a director.
what's your preference?
I like both. I really do. I really like patient care, but I think we've been able to do some amazing things administratively. So, but I'll be honest, I don't feel the support's at this table. And I don't know.
What would help that? I mean, more get-togethers, formal and informal? How do we go back? Because to be real honest with you,
yeah,
the only
yeah.
thing that this commission really hears is complaints. Very seldom we get attaboys, regardless of what it is. So really all we try to do is deal with the complaints we receive. You're right. We don't take into account a lot of times the pluses when all we get to see is the minuses. We just want more information from you. More information that makes your paperwork and everything else more understandable. I guess is that more what you're looking for?
I mean, if you really want to know the status of your EMS and the status of your EMS over the years, I would go talk to the hospital. They're the ones that are directly impacted what we do.
And I've done that.
I mean, and I would hope it would be positive, but, you know, it'd be honest, I hope. And then, you know, if you find out that's positive and we've moved in a good direction over the years under my leadership, do you care? Do you really care? What is your goal? For Reed Riley to work 40 hours a week? Because you had that before. Wasn't you guys, but a previous commission had that before. And they came to me and they said they didn't want that. It wasn't the 40 hours, but they didn't like the way EMS was headed, and we had a medical director that wasn't going to sign off for us.
Well, even though.
So we've changed all
Even though
that.
you don't work 40 hours, I think we need to know that you're spending at least 20 hours and they're the same hours every week. If it's a 20-hour job and we're gonna pay you the rest of it in call time,
And we
then
used,
we need to know that.
I mean, we used to do that. We used to track my call time by clocking in and out separately than my salary pay in and out. I mean, we can go back to that if we're going to do something with it. I mean, if it's just to be doing it, and you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because I had a lot of corrections back in those days too, and I think Scott didn't appreciate those a whole lot either.
well, obviously, the bottom line here, we're all struggling one way or another. We just don't know where to come together to make everybody comfortable. I don't know where to go from here.
But I don't like your comment that you said we don't support you. We're trying to support you, but you gotta prove to us what you're doing. And just saying we've got a good service,
That's not enough.
that's not enough. Because we've gotta answer to the public.
And that's how you answer the public. We got a good
That's kind of-
service. We used to be the laughingstock in Northwest Kansas as far as EMS. We've taken on grant projects. I've been invited to be speakers at medical conferences that my peers are MDs. But we want more hours because it's all about just hours. I fired people because that was their attitude. Just, I'm going to put in my hours because I have to put in my hours. That's why I'm a big component of incentive-based compensation. I don't care about your hours. I care about your work. If you can show me you can do this in 10 hours a week, or if you can show me
Well, that's
it
not the way
takes 60
most
hours.
of the countries run.
No, I think
That's
you'd be
not right.
surprised.
Okay. Let's put it this way, that's not the way most of Cheyenne County is run.
I would agree with you.
And guess who I'm answering to? Cheyenne County.
The patients we take care of.
So,
You just tell me what you want, and I'll do whatever you want. I know one thing going. You want who goes on what calls every month, and I'm going to include that in payroll.
Yeah, it's
they're just
simplify it. Who was there?
Simplify it.
How long was you out? From 10:23 to 10:24.
And I think that's what I came up with.
That's all I'm interested in. I just want to see who's there and how long they're there.
But, I mean, one of the problems, it can't just be what you're interested in. It's got to be what this board's interested in.
Yeah.
And I'm trying
Well, this
to
just
satisfy
a piece,
all three.
That's just a piece of it. What I want is separate from what Roger wants or Ed wants or Leslie. We're just going to have to come together. We're just going to have to get a little bit better lines of communication, I guess.
In the past, you've asked him to come once a month to meetings.
Yeah, we'd
Do you want
like
him
that.
to
Even if you just show up for 2 minutes and say, hey.
I missed this month, I'll be real honest.
Yeah.
I don't have any statistics ready. We've been doing this new class, and that's where most of my time's been going. And then, to be honest, I didn't realize there wasn't 31 days in September.
Get with Scott, get your time thing figured out accurately, and then
What do you want with time figured out accurately, though? I mean, do you?
what do you want?
What do you-
Well, we talked about his overages on,
Oh, that, okay. I didn't know that. So, yeah, we're going to talk about that.
yeah. That's what I meant. The
And if
overages.
there is true overages, I will come back to you guys and we will figure out what we're going to do, because that's not right.
Okay. Well, that was probably our biggest concern.
I mean, to me, that started a leave without pay situation because you're out of leave. And there needs to be some, yeah.
Anything else, guys?
You know, we had talked, I think maybe the last time, about you kind of being, gosh, almost liaison between EMS. I mean, would that help?
We can try it. I can try to take time out, run up, walk in, have the Pepsi, how we doing, what's going on, this is what we'd like to see, then you can tell me what you'd like. Yeah, we can try that and see how it goes.
Because I am frustrated that you guys keep wanting more information and I'm not able to provide that.
Yeah. And so
Because it just seems like I have a ton of information up there. So I really want to nail that down and have you guys say at some point, yes, this is what we want, continue.
Well, I'd like it if
And
I
then-
could understand your paperwork.
See, and that's another thing. So if you can't understand
But if I
it,
ask you this week, I'd forget by next, so.
but what can I do? What can I do to help that?
I don't know, but I will think about it.
Okay, seriously. If it's you guys coming up on your own,
Last
if it's
month-
me doing something different,
Last month, if I had, my figures are right, we paid $628 or hours of call time. Now, to have 4 people on call, which is 2 here and 2 over in Bird City, it takes 288 hours to cover that.
2,000.
2,880 hours. Somebody's covering that for nothing, I guess.
I think if I understand right, and tell me if I'm wrong, probably what has happened, because we don't have Wendy full-time anymore, she's just part-time. So our coverage has went down. So what I'm guessing is there's a lot of times now where there will be only one person on call in Bird City and one person on call in St. Francis during the days. Would that
Well,
impact your numbers?
A lot.
Okay.
Well, yeah, but you're still 400 hours off.
Well, more than that, weren't we? It was like
Well,
680 and 2,000.
627 hours is what we paid call time from August 21st to September the 20th. And I figured 4 people, 24 hours a day, and I know you're on call a bunch of that, so there's 96 hours a day for call people. Is that correct? If you have 4 people on call?
At 50 cents an hour. What is that?
Well, I'm not even figuring, this is just hours.
hours.
isn't it?
Oh, hours.
And then at times 30 is
4 times 24.
2,880 hours that we should have been paying people call time.
That you're not seeing.
Well, I'm not.
See, I mean that's good. Just ask me those questions. I'll go back and research it, and I'll come back to you. I don't know the answer today, but I can. What I would do is I would add up all of my hours that wouldn't be in there, and then I'd figure out maybe 75% of the time we only have 2 people on call. Well, that would impact the hours too, and I can explain that to you.
So we just have 2 people on call. Are they both over here or one over there?
Usually split.
So
Usually it's me and Jill during the days.
So you're depending on,
And that's the minimum the state requires, and that's where I'm keeping it. We're not shift bidding those days.
And you don't think people are gonna take call if they don't shift bid it?
We give them an opportunity to sign up and they don't. So that kind of tells me. Now, what I did explain to Terry the other day, with this new class, and there's 9 from St. Francis and 3 from Bird City, maybe it gives us an opportunity to have our numbers up enough to where there is a little more competition for call. And I talked to him just briefly about an active versus inactive status for EMTs. So they have to do some minimum stuff, minimum call like per month or per year, just to maintain an active status and carry a radio, for instance. Or through, I belong to a contract purchasing group that also allows the benefits to the employees. We could even, like, for instance, 10% discount at Office Depot. We could pass that on to them at no cost for a little incentive. You know, I'm just thinking out loud going forward.
well, and that's us too.
But you don't know until they're out and you know their availability.
Would raising the payout to answer calls, would that make any difference?
Where we're at with pay is we're low on the on-call pay compared to the region, but we're high on the per call pay. Well, guess what? Per call is where the county brings in revenue. So I can justify that a lot easier than I can justify bumping up on-call time that's you don't see any revenue from. And I figured it out one time, just to raise it from 50 cents to $1 an hour was a lot of money compared to what we can do raising it on a per call basis that we hopefully would have some revenue coming back. So that's why those two are set the way they're at. I think there's a lot less risk, financial risk, in putting the money on the calls and not the on-call time. And I don't think, because I've asked the technicians, okay, if we would bump our on-call pay up, double it to $1 an hour, and they keep telling me it's not about the money. I mean, yeah, if you're going to bump it up to $12 an hour and it's a full-time job, then yeah, it makes a difference. But just an extra 50 cents doesn't really make a difference to them.
It must be a little bit of difference if they would do it. Because then all of a sudden they take a shift bid.
And look where the shift bids are at usually. They're about at a full-time EMT's wage.
So you can't tell me that bumping it up isn't going to make a little bit of difference. Or
No, just bumping it up, doubling it to
what if
$1.
we don't even pay call time and pay more for runs?
That's something we can try. I mean, we can talk about that at a meeting.
If you make a run, you make more. If you don't make a run, you mow your lawn for nothing.
The issue I think I'm going to have with that is that I'm going to have no people taking call.
And
I think we're gonna run
as
into-
much as they are now for taking the call rather versus just sticking around doing nothing. They might.
But you're still
our
talking about the same
requirement.
amount of monies.
Yeah, it's funneling it different. Our requirement is those 2 people on call. You know, if it would become competitive, I think you're right. If we had enough people to where you had to be on call to take a call, if that makes sense.
That's the thing, is what he's talking about. If you get the call rate up, or the pay rate up so much, you have to be on call to be able to take that run, and then you get that money.
I think it would be pretty sticky. And maybe we can't even, I guess here's my deal. We can't even think that way until this new class is done and we see what kind of availability they have.
And I agree with that.
You know, hopefully, I don't know. That's not a bad idea.
So how does it work when you have one person on call in Byrd and one over here? How do you keep your response time down to 5 minutes?
Okay, so the response time is when we come out of the building with an ambulance. So, for instance, Jill's on call and I'm on call and there's a Byrd City call. Jill goes, and usually with a driver, usually Willie drives. They take an ambulance. When they go out of their building, that's the response time. So it's not when I get there.
And so basically, it's not when they get there either.
It's not when they get there. It's when they leave the building. That's the whole 5-minute thing with the state. They
So
want to
there's
see
really
us
no
out
basic-
the door within
There's-
5 minutes.
There's no basic response time then from home to station.
No. And what can screw us up is if people, and we don't get this a whole lot, but come from their house to the patient. You know, they might be their neighbor. They're there in 30 seconds. The state doesn't care about that. They care about when the ambulance leaves the station. That's the number that they supposedly care about.
That's a little misleading, isn't it?
Yes. And that's why when I give you the statistics, I actually have response time figured in there. Like, how long on average does it take to us to get to people's houses?
From call to,
From the time the page goes out till when we arrive there and actually provide care. Because that's
to me, that's the bottom line.
more important than when you leave the building.
Yeah. Because if you spend 30 minutes getting there and then 2 minutes response,
Yeah, that's why they don't care if Byrd City responds to St. Francis calls or St. Francis responds to Byrd City calls. But your citizens probably do.
well, we're going to make this
But no, if you have questions like that, just like what you had written down, that needs to come to me. And just ask me to explain it. Because, like I said, I've got the data there.
we'll work on better lines of communication. I'll try real hard to, and remind me occasionally.
Okay.
I'll try real hard to come up and we'll share concerns back and forth, and hopefully we can come up with better.
Well, I hope we can come up with a monthly report of some kind that
Yeah.
satisfies you guys' need.
Okay.
That's understandable. But I'm going to need a lot of feedback from you guys. I mean, those are understandable to me, but I'm in it every day.
I don't understand, I can tell you, I don't understand. It's just like, what's the hell the chicken scratches for, and explain it, so.
A lot of
I don't
times
have
it's
any
all
problem with that, if we don't understand it, we'll let you know.
Okay. Okay.
clarifications.
All right. So my leave and who goes on what calls in the payroll report is what I'm going back with.
Those are the two ones that we can think of right at the moment.
And then I need to write that down. Explain. That was last month's, right? That was the August to September that you had written down. We didn't pay, like we only paid a fourth.
You paid 627 hours of call time.
And that was the August to September, right? Okay. I'll look at it.
Which is good for the county.
Oh, I know, but I see what you're saying. How are we meeting our state obligation? Would be my
Well,
question.
but see, I had figured in there 4 people. You're saying a lot of times there's only 2 on call.
Well, yeah, but that still doesn't add up.
No,
Well, and that's just me. I mean,
that's
I
still
don't.
covering the difference.
Okay. Anything else?
No, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Reed.
You bet. Thank you.
Can I go home now?
Call it, buddy.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor of adjournment? Aye.
Aye.